It is a deep privilege to be a part of your commander's call. I'm here this morning to update you on our sacred mission and our moral duty to locate, recover, and identify missing Americans from past conflicts. Our goal is simply this: to find an American on an unknown field, in this case, as you see, in Quang Binh province in Vietnam, and return them to American soil, plain and simple. Let me first sincerely thank the American Legion for the outstanding support you continue to provide this noble endeavor. Legionnaires from posts and departments regularly attend military funerals of the missing, and you provide refreshments to their families. But more importantly, while you're here in Washington, is you continue to champion this noble cause in the halls of Congress and throughout the communities of our great nation, to not only raise the awareness level of our American leaders and Americans of all stripes, but more importantly, to engender their support. In searching for, finding, recovering, and identifying our missing Department of Defense personnel from World War II through Operation Iraqi Freedom, we work to bring home veterans who have not returned. Inherent to the POW MIA mission is the fulfillment of a promise made to them who made the supreme sacrifice, and more importantly, to their families who anxiously await their return. In addition, this mission serves as a commitment to veterans like yourselves, whose comrades in arms remain missing. It also serves as a commitment to those currently in uniform that this nation will spare no expense should they be missing to ensure that they are not forgotten and brought home. The scope, as you see here, is global in nature. 75% of the losses are in the Indo-Pacific theater of operations. While the numbers are daunting, there's so much more than just figures. This is why our scope is also generational, because memories have been passed down through generations. Stories are attached to every single one of these 82,128 that are missing. It transcends time, and it's a loss that leaves an enduring void in both heart and mind of the families. I never realized it until I met the first MIA family. They are no different than Gold Star families who may have lost a loved one in Afghanistan last month. What makes them different is the fact that there's an uncertainty attached to their loss. And it's that uncertainty that gnaws at the heart and creates that void for them and their generations to come. This is exactly what makes our efforts humanitarian. And these efforts are recognized by 46 host nations that we currently work with all over the world. These 46 nations look at this as their humanitarian duty to the United States to help us fulfill that commitment to our nation's heroes. Here at home, the POW MIA mission is made manifest by, among other things, the iconic black and white POW MIA flag that flies across and over many of your departments and posts throughout the nation. But the mission itself also stirs hope and evokes joy throughout the nation. Let me share with you the story, you can get it, of Captain Lawrence Dixon. Captain Dixon was from the Bronx, New York, a dashing P-51 Mustang pilot. He was lost in Austria in December 1944. After extensive DPA research and investigations, A joint team made up of University of New Orleans, University of Innsbruck, and the World War II Museum recovered the remains of Captain Dixon in a forest near the Italian-Austrian border. In addition to having found his remains, the team also found his wedding ring and his harmonica, as Captain Dixon was an accomplished musician. Needless to say, his daughter Marla, who you see here in the middle of the picture, was 2.5 years old when her father went missing in 1944. Captain Dixon was a Tuskegee Airman. Captain Dixon had also received the Distinguished Flying Cross. And on this particular mission, it was his 68th, 2 missions short of being sent back home to his beloved wife, daughter, and his home in the Bronx. Captain Dixon is the first of 27 Tuskegee Airmen who are currently missing that we have recovered and brought home where he belongs. Captain Dixon will be buried at Arlington National Cemetery next month. His daughter is a Spitfire, if there ever were one. She told me that her dad loved jazz music. And she looked me in the eye and she said, "So you better believe that in the chapel at Arlington, jazz music will be blaring during my father's service." I'd like to tell you about several developments that we're very proud of. But I share this with you because you, the American Legion, have been a part of these successes that you see here. Last year, DPA made a record 206 identifications, each of which brought solace to a grieving family that had been waiting for answers for decades. Our host nation partners, particularly Vietnam and Laos, have been amenable to improvements in how we accomplish the mission in their countries. Vietnam in particular has embraced and fielded both unilateral recovery and investigation teams. Some of you may have caught CBS News' broadcast last night. Featured on the broadcast was a story of Navy Lieutenant, naval aviator, Richard Lanham from Union City, Tennessee. CBS News tells a story of how a Vietnamese unilateral team in December 2017 found the remains of Lieutenant Lanham. What made this particularly compelling is the fact that it took them a 2-hour boat ride to the island off the coast of Vietnam, followed by a 2.5-hour walk up to the side of a cliff where his aircraft, his A-6A, had crashed in 1968, and they found the remains. Lieutenant Lanham's wife, Charlotte, will bury her husband this Saturday in Union City, Tennessee, his hometown. 51 years and a day from when he went missing. Thanks to the Vietnamese for this effort. Public-private partnerships are important to us. As you saw, those numbers are daunting. But what's important to realize is that there are a number of both United States and international partners that are willing and have the conviction to offer their expertise and help us. Today, we have over 60 such of these arrangements. And again, universities, private researchers, historians, non-governmental organizations. One case in particular, in 2017, involved 8 different universities, Croatian agencies, as well as United States non-governmental organizations. and their collective effort brought home the remains of Lieutenant Eugene Ford from Kentucky, who was a B-24 pilot lost off the coast of Croatia. Lieutenant Ford was buried by his daughter last month, actually in December, at Arlington National Cemetery. Lieutenant Ford was recovered from a crash site that was 125 feet deep off an island off the coast of Croatia. Thanks again to these 8 organizations that came together, brought their expertise. The Croatian Navy themselves donated not only the ship that the team dove off of for those 30 days, but they also provided the divers that assisted us in this effort. Congress has been particularly bipartisan and very supportive of the POW MIA mission. But we believe that that bipartisan support is due to your efforts to not only raise awareness, but also, more importantly, to advocate on behalf of our unreturned veterans and their families. Last year, Congress was generous enough to add $30 million to our budget for the explicit purpose of increasing both Vietnam War and Korean War accounting. Thank you to the American Legion for the way you raise awareness and, more importantly, strongly advocate for this important mission. Despite U.S.'s tense relations with Russia, we are still working together with the Russians. In fact, we're one of the few issues where our 2 countries are actually cooperating, NASA being the other one. And in this relationship, there's this United States-Russia Joint Commission on POWs and MIAs that has been reinvigorated over the last few years. In fact, at the last plenum in November, your National Security Assistant Director, Freddie Gesner, participated in that plenum. And what's important about that is, by Freddie's presence there, he puts a face on why we asked the Russians what we asked them of. Because he represents you, the veteran, in that communication with the Russians to tell them, we ask you for access to your archives because here is who it benefits. We also had some family members there. Again, putting the face on both the impact that this mission has to families and to veterans here in the United States. Steadfast support from the American Legion has contributed in some way to each and every one of these accomplishments. Successful in securing a commitment from Chairman Kim for both the repatriation and the recovery of remains from the Korean War. Why this is particularly important is because of the 7,700 missing in action from the Korean War, 5,300 are still located in North Korea. That's 5,300 families that have no idea and whose hopes were squashed for many years because of the lack of cooperation from the North Korean government. So we were encouraged last year when the North Koreans unilaterally turned over 55 boxes of remains. So the pictures you see here are very poignant. The picture on the left is actually our 4 scientists inside North Korea to pick up those 55 boxes. Now those remains, unfortunately, are not 55 individuals. In each box, they're highly commingled, they've been on a shelf for many years, and they're in a highly degraded state. In one box alone, there was DNA attributed to 8 different individuals. Now you'll note that the C-17 that you see there with the flag draped caskets was actually one of 2 that brought home those 55 boxes. On August 1st, it landed at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, where our Vice President was the officiant at the ceremony that welcomed them home. for the first time since the early 1950s. If I could, I'd like to ask your national commander to accompany me to the left, and I'd like to offer the American Legion a very poignant symbol of our appreciation. You are part of this. Your advocacy, your raising awareness resulted in this happening. The gentleman that you see there is Army Master Sergeant Charles McDaniel. Charles was from Butler, Missouri. He was attached to the 1st Cav, and he was lost in November 1950 on the battlefields of Unsan, North Korea. Charles McDaniel was the first of 3 and counting to have been identified from those 55 boxes of remains. Charles's sons, Charles Jr. and Larry, who you see there, were 3 years old and 2 years old at the time their father went missing. The picture that you see there are Charles and Larry placing a rosette next to their father's name, etched in the National Cemetery in Honolulu's tablets of the missing. It's ironic that Charles Jr. is a retired Army colonel who served as a chaplain in the United States Army. Charles told me that it was ironic that the solace he had provided families, Army families, for many years as a chaplain, now was turned back around, and that same solace he had provided was being provided to him and his family. What has happened since August 1st is that we are still communicating with the North Korean Army. Secretary Pompeo and the White House have allowed us to work this humanitarian effort separate and distinct from the denuclearization talks. We believe that tomorrow in Hanoi, this mission, this issue will be raised by our president, just as he did in Singapore. And we're hopeful that we will be able to negotiate with the North Koreans to resume field operations inside North Korea this summer, which we haven't done since 2005. That's how much times have changed. The fact that the United States of America vigorously pursues this noble mission is the right thing to do. It defines us as a nation. The fullest possible accounting of our MIAs, as I said earlier, is both a sacred mission and a moral duty. I can assure you it is a high priority for the Department of Defense. And our 720 plus military and civilian professionals have the resolute commitment to see that this commitment is fulfilled. Not only in resources that the department provides us, but in that steadfast commitment to this noble cause. Our team provides talent, dedication, and passion on a daily basis, because we know what it means to the families of the missing. We know what it means to you as veterans whose comrades in arms are still missing. And we strive every single day to ensure that there are more Captain Dixons, Lieutenant Lanhams, and Master Sergeant McDaniels to return home here to America. Thank you again to the American Legion for your steadfast, staunch support and advocacy for the POW MIA mission. May God bless the families of our missing. May He bless the American Legion and all of you. And as always, may He shed His grace on our great United States of America. God bless you all.